I've started thinking about autumn already, and for me personally, it's never the big things that make the season feel different. It's all of the tiny little details. It's things like the fragrance that you wear as the weather changes, the fabrics that you bring back out, the drink that you make in the evening, or even something as simple as the music that you have playing in the background. These are all just tiny little changes on their own, but together they help to completely change the whole atmosphere of everyday life. So today I want to share some of the little details that I think make autumn feel even better, and the first one is fragrance. I don't just change the perfume that I'm wearing, I also change the perfume in my little atomizer that I carry in my handbag. I also tend to change out my body lotion at this time of year to something that's a little richer. I also like to do this with my shower gel. I will add something that's a little bit more moisturising, something with a more autumnal scent, because if you've ever watched any of my other videos, I talk a lot about scent layering. So that goes for things like my shower gel, my shampoo, my conditioner, my body lotion, my deodorant. I like the scents to complement one another, because especially in seasons like autumn and winter, I like the whole thing to feel, the whole experience of getting ready and showering to feel seasonal, rather than just doing something simple like spraying on a different perfume for the season and calling it a day. Summer fragrances are lovely, don't get me wrong, but once the weather starts getting a little cooler, I always find myself reaching for warmer scents. It's scents like vanilla, amber, sandalwood, cashmere, soft musk and tonka bean. They just seem to suit autumn so much better, and they work beautifully with knitwear, with suede, with coats and scarves, and everything just starts to feel like it belongs together. And that's something that you'll probably hear me say a lot throughout this video, about things belonging together, because to me autumn isn't really about buying loads of new things. It's about making every day feel a little bit different. Even something as simple as changing the scent that you smell throughout the day can completely change the atmosphere. The next thing I start changing is fabrics. Again, not just in what I'm wearing, although that is a huge part of it. Obviously, autumn is the time of year where fabrics like suede come back out, velvet, wool, lined satin, chunky knitwear, all of these richer textures that instantly make everything feel more autumnal. But I don't just stop with clothes, I like changing the fabrics around my home as well. Maybe it's things like the lightweight summer throw gets swapped out for something softer and heavier. Maybe I change my dressing gown from a satin one to a soft waffle cotton one. The cushions on the sofa are changed to a mix of faux fur and velvet. And even my bedding gets a little upgrade to something a little warmer and cozier. It's those little changes that make you walk into a room and immediately feel like the season has changed. I also think autumn is one of the nicest seasons for colour. Think of shades like rich chocolate browns, burgundies, deep olives, creams, camel, soft taupes. Colours that naturally make everything feel warmer while still looking really chic and put together. It's amazing how changing the texture of something can completely change how expensive it feels. The next thing I change is what I'm listening to. I know that probably sounds like a small thing, but Music has a funny way of changing the way that a season feels. I mean, think about Christmas music. The second you hear that playing on the speaker in the store, it just feels warm, it feels nostalgic, it feels just like you're being wrapped in something that's warm and cozy. And if you're someone who loves summer and always feels a bit disappointed when it starts coming to an end, I actually think that music can make that transition a whole lot easier. I personally used to be really into summer many years ago. Summer was my all-time favourite season. I used to feel so down and sad when I knew it was coming to an end, and I would try to make my summers the best that I could. I would try to cram everything into them, try to wear all of the nicest summer outfits I could, because I knew that autumn was going to come round. The colder nights were coming, the darker nights were coming, we weren't going to be outside as much, we were just going to have to wrap up more. And I'm not really someone who, I will wear wool and thicker jumpers now and then, but it's not something that you'll see me with a lot. But as I've gotten older and things in my life have changed, I've started to really appreciate autumn more. I think it's one of the calmest seasons we have. I know a lot of people think spring is, but I tend to find that autumn is the calmest season of all. It's the change from summer to autumn. Yes, sometimes it can be big, especially if we're going from something like we've had lately, is the long drawn out heat waves that we've had, which I have suffered in, to having the colder nights. But I don't know, there's just something as I've gotten older, like I said, that I love about the cozier nights and the feel of the crispness in the air when the weather does start to go a bit colder. So I'm not as down about summer ending as I used to be. Yes, I still love to see the beautiful summer sunsets and the sunrises, but autumn can bring just as much beauty as summer can. So instead of trying to hold on to summer, start giving autumn its own soundtrack. This is something that helped me transition and has always helped me transition through the seasons. It can be just a few songs that make the season feel cozy, nostalgic, or comforting whenever they come on. For me, I love softer jazz, beautiful film scores, and songs that have warm, almost cinematic feeling to them. They're the sort of songs that make you want to make a cup of tea, light a candle, and stay in for the evening. Your soundtrack may be something completely different, and that's the whole point. Maybe yours is country music, maybe it's acoustic music, maybe it's something more classical. Whatever it is, let autumn have its own sound. And once you start doing that, you'll notice that putting your coat on, driving home in the rain, making dinner, or getting ready in the morning all start to feel different, because you're creating an atmosphere around the season instead of just noticing that the weather's changed. And like I said, I think that's one of the nicest parts of autumn, I would say, is that it gives you a chance to slow everything down just a little bit, and your soundtrack becomes part of that slowing down. The next detail is your seasonal drinks. And by this, I don't just mean swapping out an iced coffee for a hot chocolate. I mean making the whole thing feel like an experience. Maybe that's adding a touch of cinnamon or caramel syrup to your coffee. Maybe you have a couple of pieces of shortbread with your afternoon tea, one of my favourite things to do, or to top your hot chocolate with whipped cream and a few seasonal sprinkles. I've noticed that a few places are now doing edible glitter sprinkles, which to me is just magical for adding to your hot chocolate. I also love using a deeper, heavier mug. In autumn, there's just something about wrapping your hands around a warm mug when it's cold outside that feels so much cozier. And don't just go into the kitchen and shove the kettle on. Think about the atmosphere around it. Use a nice tray to carry your cup in. A beautiful spoon. For me, I have these elongated gold teaspoons that I love for using with things like my hot chocolate, because you can scoop your cream off and eat it with the spoon. It just makes the drink look more put together. Maybe even set up a little autumn drinks station in your kitchen with a few of your syrups, your hot chocolate and your tea sitting out on a wooden board. Add a little LED candle to the board. Just make it seasonal, make it a whole experience, make it atmospheric, so that it doesn't feel so mundane to have a hot drink on a cold day, because it's those tiny little details that turn making a drink into one of the nicest parts of your day. I personally like to use lighting intentionally to create atmosphere. It's things like using warmer light bulbs, placing little fairy lights around the rooms, having undershelf lighting or small table lamps dotted around the room, because they all make such a difference. Candles are another one that I love, but let's be honest, if you're lighting a candle every night, they tend to become a bit expensive. So I actually like mixing real candles with some good quality LED candles. You still get that lovely cozy atmosphere, but they tend to last so much longer. It's little details like that which completely change how your home feels. You walk into the room and it immediately feels warmer, calmer and more like autumn. I always think that good lighting is one of the easiest ways to change the atmosphere of a room without having to redecorate or spend a fortune. I'm trying to talk about autumn here, and while it's a mostly overcast day, the sun is trying to get through and it is almost blinding me. But another little detail that I always change is the flowers that I have around my home. During summer, I naturally gravitate towards brighter, fresher flowers, but once autumn starts coming around, I like everything to feel a little richer and softer. This is a time of year where I start bringing in flowers like chrysanthemums, dahlias and deep burgundy roses. I love a beautiful rose. I also love adding eucalyptus because it gives arrangements a bit more texture and it smells beautiful too. But if you prefer something a little lighter, maybe something like white roses, they always tend to look stunning in autumn as well, especially when they're paired with the likes of eucalyptus or soft green foliage. I also like changing the vase that I keep my flowers in. In summer, I do tend to lean more towards clear glass or crystal vases, but in autumn I love something that's a little heavier, maybe a ceramic vase, something that's more stoneware, or even darkened glass vases in rich colours. I just find that they suit the season so much better. It's only a small change, but it completely changes the feel of a room. You don't need huge bouquets either. Even just a few seasonal stems on a coffee table or on a kitchen counter can make your home feel like it's moved into autumn with you, along with you. You don't have to wait until the first day of autumn either to start making these little changes. I personally like easing into the season gradually, so by the time autumn actually comes around, my home already feels ready for it. And like I said before, if you're someone who has trouble going from summer to autumn, making those small little changes along the way can help with that transition. It can make it feel smoother and less depressing. I think that autumn evenings are one of the nicest parts of the whole season, so I like to make a bit more of them. One thing I always do is I close my blinds about 3/4 of the way, so that instead of closing them all the way, so that I still have my privacy, but I can still see outside. I can see the lights of the city outside. I can see the leaves moving and the wind, and I still feel connected to what's happening outside in the world, because I'm not someone who likes to shut myself off from the world completely. Then I'll usually get into my comfy pyjamas a little earlier. I dim the lights, light a few candles and put something on in the background. I love watching seasonal episodes of programmes at this time of year. Friends is one of my favourites, it's one of my comfort shows, and that has some brilliant autumn and Thanksgiving episodes. Gilmore Girls is an obvious one. Personally, I've only watched Gilmore Girls once, but it was in autumn when I watched it, and I will admit the aesthetic is brilliant for that one. Gossip Girl also has that lovely autumn atmosphere. I mean, autumn in New York, what could be better than that? And I personally always end up watching Sex and the City around this time as well, because some of their seasonal episodes are just brilliant. Again, like I said, New York, autumn in New York. If you can't tell, I love New York. It's one of my favourite places. But if you're more of a film person than a TV show person, then you have movies like Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus, or, and I know this isn't a movie, but Charmed. That just in itself has a great autumnal feel to it. So if you're looking for a series that just feels autumnal, I would recommend Charmed. Haven't watched it myself in many years, but it does have that really seasonal feel. And I think that's another one of my favourite things about autumn, is instead of treating the evenings as just the time between work and bed, they become something that you actually look forward to. It's those little rituals that make autumn feel like autumn. The next little detail is your handbag. I always find myself reaching for something a little more structured in autumn. Usually something that's a lot more durable as well, because let's be honest, the weather in autumn isn't always on our side. So also, if I'm wearing a thicker coat or a chunky cardigan, I also like to have a bag that usually stays on my shoulder instead of constantly slipping off every 5 minutes. It's just one of those little things that makes a difference when you're out and about. And like that, if you're, again, not someone who enjoys colder weather, that is just something, having your handbag slip off your shoulder every few minutes with your coat on can be the, as they say, the straw that broke the camel's back. It can be enough to send you over the edge. So I like to have something that is going to stay on my shoulder no matter what I'm wearing. I also like to change out what's inside my bag for the season. I'll usually swap out the perfume in my atomizer, like I said earlier. I'll change it out for something that's a bit warmer. I carry a richer hand cream because my hands always tend to get a bit drier in the colder weather. And I change to a more nourishing lip balm as well. I'll normally add a little umbrella too, and a packet of tissues And later on in the season, I will slip in a little lightweight pair of gloves if I know that I'm going to be out for a while. Like I've said before, these are all tiny changes, but they make your handbag feel like it's keeping up with the season instead of still being stuck in summer. The next little detail is your beauty routine. And now, I don't think that autumn means you have to throw out everything that you used in summer and start over again. For me, it's about making just these small little adjustments that make the season feel a little bit better. For me, that's usually swapping to a slightly richer blush and bringing out deeper nude lip colours and reaching for a chocolate brown lip liner a bit more often. If you love a bold lip, this is the perfect time for berry shades and richer wine colours. But if you're anything like me and you don't really suit brighter lipsticks, a deeper nude can still give you that lovely autumn feel. I also like to change my nails during autumn, maybe swapping my usual pink for something with a little more warmth, something like a rosy brown or a wine shade, and sometimes I'll even add a little touch of gold. Whether that's on the tips, painting the tips of my nails with a gold shimmer polish, or using it as a tiny accent somewhere on my nails. It's just a subtle nod to the season without feeling over the top. And that's another nice thing about autumn. You don't have to completely reinvent yourself every season. Making just a few little changes here and there often is all it takes to make everything feel a bit more seasonal. The last little detail is something that I always look forward to once autumn comes around, and that's slow Sundays. Even if you're someone like me who doesn't really sleep in, I still think there's something lovely about giving yourself permission to spend that extra half an hour in bed on a Sunday morning. For me, I like to lay there under the blankets that little bit longer. I will put some music on in the background and just give myself a slower start to the day. Then it's things like wrapping yourself up in your dressing gown once you get out of bed, making yourself a proper seasonal breakfast without rushing through it. And if you're making pancakes, why not make them feel a bit more autumnal? Try adding some cinnamon or caramelized apples or pears, or even some maple syrup and a sprinkle of cocoa powder. Even using autumn shaped cutters, if you've got them, can make it feel a little bit more special. Use your Sunday morning to spend a little time reading, have a long shower where you've really pampered yourself, or run yourself a bath and fill it with bubbles, light a few candles and put something on to watch while you relax. I think autumn is one of the few seasons that almost encourages us to slow down a little. The evenings get darker, the weather changes, and life naturally starts moving at a different pace. And one of the things that I personally love about autumn is that it gives us permission to make ordinary moments feel just that little bit more special again, and sometimes that's all it takes to make a season feel completely different. So that's it for another video. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell for next week's uploads. Until then,